Hello, this is Bev with Stampin' with Inky Fingers. Just coming to you today with my Wednesday, March 31st mystery stamping. Alright, so I did post the supply list to my Stampin' with Inky Fingers page, Facebook page. But if you didn't receive it, we'll go through it again. Alright, so let's get started. Okay, so here are the list of supplies that you're going to need. So the first thing we want is color number 1, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. So 5.5, 8.5, scored at 4 1/4, and 1 1/4. So there's 2 score marks on this one. Okay, from there we want a piece of scrap white to stamp our image and our sentiment on. Then we want a piece of basic white, which is 4 by 5 1/4. So again, 4 across, 5 1/4 down. Okay. And again, we want a piece of, so I said that wrong. So color number 1, I'm using the petal pink. And then we also want a piece of scrap for that one to mat our sentiment on. Okay. Now we want the 4 by 5 1/4 basic white piece and a piece of scrap to stamp the image and the sentiment. Designer series paper, we want a piece that's 5 1/4 by 1 inch. And we want 2 pieces that are 5 1/4 by 2 3/4. So we got 2 of those. Alright, then you want a stamp set with sentiment and an image, a paper trimmer with a scoring blade, dies and or punch, ink, embellishments, and adhesives. Alright, so again this week I'm using the Good Morning Magnolia and the petal pink, and this is the Good Morning Magnolia Designer Series paper that I'm using as well. Okay, so step number 2 says to fold your card base in half at the 4 1/4 and burnish with your bone folder. So remember, we've got 2 score marks on this one, but first we're going to fold it in half, and using your bone folder, just give that a really good crease so it stays folded. Okay, now your 1 1/4 score mark is down this side, so that's going to be the front of your card, and you're going to fold that piece over and score and fold it on the score mark and burnish it. And again, you want to give it a good crease so it stays. All right, so that was clue number 2, and in fact it was clue number 3 as well. So fold the 1 1/4 flap, this piece, back, and burnish with your bone folder as well. Okay. Clue number 4. Adhere the 1 by 5 1/4 piece of DSP to the front flap. So again, this is the front of your card here. Take that piece of 5 1/4 by 1 and just adhere it to the front of that flap, like so. Okay. Clue number 5. Adhere one of the pieces of 2 3/4 by 5 1/4 DSP to the front left side. So remember, we had 2 of these that are the same size. You're going to adhere one to the front. So this piece is glued down there, and the other piece you're going to glue to the front of the card like so. Okay, so got that. Okay, clue number 6. Adhere the second piece of Designer Series paper to the inside left of the card base. So now you're going to open your card base up, and you're going to attach that piece right there. So this piece is already adhered there, and you're going to put that. Now, if your Designer Series paper coordinates, you can definitely flip it over and use the opposite side, or you can use both the same side. And you could have done the same on the front as well. If you've got this piece, you could have put the striped piece there, or vice versa. I could always put the stripe piece like that. And that looks good too. Like so. Okay, so that was clue number 6. Clue number 7 says, adhere the piece of 4 by 5 1/4 piece of basic white to the inside of your card base. Okay, so you've got your designer series paper here, piece of designer series paper there. You're going to put your white piece over here, and that's where you're going to put your inside sentiment as well. Okay. Clue number 8, stamp an image on basic white or very vanilla, whichever color you're using, scrap. So that piece of scrap basic white that we had, you're going to stamp your image on there. And if it needs to be colored, you can do that now as well. Clue number 9, stamp your sentiment under the image you just stamped. So again, you've got your scrap piece. If you stamped your image here, just put your sentiment underneath. And I mean, I've got a narrow piece, but if your image and your sentiment are bigger, then that's fine too. So stamp your sentiment under the image that you just stamped. Okay, and clue number 10 says cut out your image and sentiment using a punch, a die, or a paper trimmer. All right, so just cut this piece again, depending on how big your image and your sentiment are. Cut that out accordingly. And clue number 11, you want to cut a mat with the colored cardstock for the image and the sentiment piece you just created. So if this is your sentiment, your image and your sentiment on here, and you've cut it out, now you want to cut a piece of coordinating cardstock to mat it on. All right. Clue number 12, adhere the image and the sentiment to the matted piece. So now you've got these both cut down to size that you want, and just adhere the two pieces together. Clue number 13, adhere the image and sentiment piece to the card front, attaching only to the 1 1/4 inch panel. So what I mean by that is, so here's your card base and you put your designer series paper on there. So now if this is your sentiment and your image, you just want to attach it. I'm just going to put that piece down for now. You just want to attach it to this piece right here. Okay, so make sure your adhesive or dimensionals or whatever it is you're using is only behind this center part here. Okay, so then your sentiment stays loose. Or I mean your flap stays loose. Okay, so that's what I meant there. Okay, clue number 14 is add your embellishments, your Wink of Stella, if you want to add a ribbon or gems, anything that you want to add here. You're going to do that now. And clue number 15, your mystery is solved. Okay, so here's the card that I made. So I attached the designer series paper there. I've got a piece of designer series paper behind here, a piece on the inside panel. Your basic white goes here, and then when I made my image and my sentiment, I just cut the white piece out with my paper trimmer, and this early espresso piece that I've matted it on, I cut that out with the Stitched So Sweetly dies. All right, and I just colored the flower using the blends, stamped my sentiment in early espresso to match the mat, and there you have it. And you could definitely, if you're putting something on the inside, you'd probably want to make note that you haven't put it past this part, because you don't want to, you might want to stamp a couple of images on this part, but I think for your sentiment you want to keep it behind here. All right, so there's another quick, easy, fast card. You could make lots of those in no time at all. All right, so that is our mystery stamping for Wednesday, March 31st. if you are placing an order anytime between, oh, today's the 31st actually. So yeah, if you're placing an order today, you can use this host code right here. And if not, I'll have a new host code starting tomorrow, April 1st. If you're placing your order, you can always contact me for the host code on that one. All right. So have a great week, everybody.